Causes of the American Revolution. Navigation Act of 1651. Series of laws that only allow colonists to trade with England. The Navigation Act was the start of the road that led to the American Revolution. The Navigation Act began in 1651 and ended 200 years later. The introduction to these laws caused Britain's shipping industry to develop in isolation. Salutary neglect. Violated Navigation Act because colonists expanded trade and completely ignored the British policy. The British policy for limited trade to American colonists. Salutary neglect was a long-standing British policy in 13 colonies which allowed the colonists to violate the laws associated with trade. The policy and era of salutary neglect lasted from 1690s to 1760s and benefited the colonists, increasing their profits from trade. Proclamation of 1763 prohibited settlements west of the Appalachian Mountains. Proclamation made the colonists angry because many already had land in the area, plus there was good fertile soil for farming not being used. King George issued a proclamation on October 7, 1763. The area was off limits to colonists because they didn't want more wars. Sugar Act. Sugar Act was passed by the Parliament of Great Britain on April 5, 1764. In 1764, there was a 3-cent tax put on the foreign sugar and increased tax on coffee, indigo, and certain kinds of wine. Most colonists were angry that the British government took action without permission. They didn't like that they were being controlled by the British. Sons of Liberty. A group of men that opposed the British rule over the original colonies started to protect the rights of colonists. They protested the passing of the Stamp Act of 1765. Sons of Liberty were best known for undertaking the Boston Tea Party. Stamp Act. Passed on March 22, 1765, required all colonists to pay tax on anything printed. Newspaper, pamphlet, and other public and legal document had to have a stamp on it or British seal on it. However, the colonists didn't think they should have to pay for something they had been doing for free for many years. Quartering Act. It forced colonists to provide room and board to British. Quartering Act was passed on June 1765. Taxation without representation means that Parliament had no right to tax the colonies if they couldn't have people chosen to represent them in Parliament for their wants. Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre was a street fight that occurred on March 5, 1770, between a patriot mob, throwing snowballs, stones, and sticks, and a squad of British soldiers. The Boston Massacre was a signal event leading to the Revolutionary War. Gaspee Affair. On June 9, 1772, the Gaspee was chasing a merchant ship believed to be carrying goods. The next night, a group of men boarded the Gaspee. They were led by John Brown, a wealthy merchant from Providence. They wounded the lieutenant who was commanding the ship and set the ship on fire. Tea Act. Tea Act was a British law passed by Parliament of Great Britain on May 10, 1773. The Tea Act imposed no new taxes. It gave a tea monopoly in the American colonies to the British East India Company. The Tea Act allowed the East India Company to sell its large tea supply below tea from other suppliers. Boston Tea Party. As you can see, Boston was the hotbed of the Revolution. In 1773, Sons of Liberty boarded a British tea vessel and dumped the contents of Boston Harbor in protest of taxes on tea. Intolerable Acts. Intolerable Acts was a series of laws sponsored by British Prime. Boston Port Act, Quartering Act, Massachusetts Government Act, Administration of Justice Act. The First Continental Congress. All the 13 colonies except Georgia attended the convention. The First Continental Congress was